Today, we're going to talk about a topic that's really important when it comes to divorce. It's budgeting. And it's something that we don't know a lot about. We don't know what things are going to look like. I spoke to a prospect recently, and she had just come a week before. They had finished mediation. So she kind of knows what she's going to get from the divorce. And we're talking. She goes, "Phil, I just need a budget. I feel overwhelmed. I know that I have the house, and under the terms of the divorce, the house is paid for, so she doesn't have to worry about paying off the mortgage. She doesn't have to worry about paying for a car because that's something else that also came. But she's got to take care of the kids, and she doesn't know what things are going to look like. And before divorce, you should have a good understanding of what the financial situation is. You want to continue that once the divorce is finalized. But the problem is you often don't know because some things are going to change. Remember, before you were all one household, now you're two households. There's lots of variations, and some things you just really don't know what it's going to cost on your own. Even if you're staying in the same house, you may not know what all the expenses are going to be. And there's things that you might not be used to paying for that you're now going to have to pay for. And so you have to find the right balance too, because it's important that you take care of yourself and your family, both. You can't neglect yourself, because if you do, you're going to be miserable. And that's not a good way to approach it. So you really want to sit down and try to get an understanding of what divorce might look like from a financial perspective. I think that's really important. And it can take away that feeling of overwhelm that this woman that I spoke to recently talked about. Without a budget and understanding what things are going to look like, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. By the end of this video, you should be able to feel more confident that you have an understanding of what your budget might look like. That's understanding what your income is, what the inflows are going to be, what your expenses are, the outflows. And we're going to talk about different type of expenses because they're not all the same. There's those fixed expenses, which pretty much the same every month. And then there's variable expenses, which you have more control over setting what they are. And then we want to look at savings. That's part of your budget. And what do you have left at the end of the day? Paying down debt. Don't forget about that. That's also part of your budget. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with your friends who you also think might benefit from it, watching it. Let's talk for a minute about why budgeting after divorce is so important. Number one, it's a really emotional time. You're likely to feel overwhelmed and not have an idea what things might look like. So going through this process can help you to ease that overwhelm and the anxiety that comes with it. Number two, you have to remember that now you're two households. You were one household before. And you want to make sure that you understand what things are going to look like for your household. And number three, remember that we're not just worried about today, we're also thinking about the future. So you want to make sure that you're prepared to get through today and enjoy today, but also be able to enjoy the future. And putting a budget together can help you with all those things. Putting a budget together can help you do all those things. What I'd like to do now is walk you through a sample budget for Linda. Remember, with a budget, we're going to look at four key areas in the budget. We're going to look at income. We're going to look at expenses, the fixed expenses. Then we're going to look at the variable or the discretionary expenses. And then we're going to look at savings and debt repayment. Those are going to be the four sections. And we're going to look at all these on a monthly basis because that's easier than trying to look at it a year at a time. We have a much better handle on what we spend from month to month than what we spend on a yearly basis. And just remember, because I've been asked this question, what do I do with expenses like car insurance or home insurance where I pay them once or twice a year? And in that case, what I do or recommend for a budget is take those numbers and divide them by 12 and show that as your monthly budget for those items, so that when you're considering where your spending is going, you take care of that. You don't get blindsided. Say, oh, I have to pay my insurance or property taxes or something like that, and I didn't have the money for it. So you want to take those numbers and divide them by 6 or 12, depending upon the frequency at which they're paid, and put them into your budget that way. So let's take a look at Linda's budget. We're going to start with her monthly income. So Linda has a salary of $5,000 a month. One thing I just want to bring out, because I know it's not in this budget, let's assume that all these numbers are after taxes, because I did include taxes within this example. So we'll assume everything's after taxes, so that Linda's net salary is $5,000 a month. She also receives child support and alimony. She has a brokerage account that gives her some dividends, and she even does a little bit of writing on the side. So she brings in almost $7,500 a month. When we get to her fixed expenses, we'll see that Linda doesn't own her home right now. She rents, and she's paying $2,300 a month in rent. Since she's renting, there's no property taxes. Other fixed monthly expenses, we look at utilities, and I know those can vary from month to month. So again, you want to kind of average things out, because in the summer, the winter, those are going to be when they're highest. In the spring and the fall, your utilities might be a little bit lower. Phone and internet, that should be pretty much the same every month. Your health insurance, whether you're under COBRA or the Affordable Care Act, you're going to have that. You're going to have car insurance, maybe life insurance if you have kids, car payment, if you have to pay for childcare or tuition for your kids. Depending upon your age, you might have a student loan payment, credit card minimum payments. If you have balance, we'll get to paying extra later. And then any subscriptions that you have that you're paying for on a regular basis. You can see here that Linda's total fixed expenses are $47.45. And like I said, those are expenses that don't change or vary that much from month to month. The next thing we want to look at are the variable and discretionary expenses. Those are the things you have a little bit more control over, because you can make more choices and they can vary more. So you want to make sure that you try and stay within these amounts. So for Linda, she's assuming that her grocery costs and dining, so food costs combined, are about $750 a month. She has her gas and transportation, an allowance to get some new clothes, to give some gifts. She puts some money aside for travel or vacation. We're not vacationing or going traveling every month. But again, that's an expense. If we took that $150, multiplied it by 12, we'd say that's $1,800 a year. And so she's just breaking it down on a monthly basis so she knows and makes sure that she's taking in enough to cover her expenses. Then we look at entertainment, self-care, therapy, gym, whatever the case may be, your kids' activities. Her kids are going to a therapist, so we have a cost for that. They have a dog, so we have a cost for taking care of the dog. And then we have just some miscellaneous expenses, and that's about another $1,900. And then the last of the four categories that we talked about are savings and debt payments. As I said earlier, you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund. That's there in case something goes wrong, and you don't want to have to just pull out your credit card and rack up more credit card debt to pay for it. But it's nice to build an emergency fund to pay for it. Ideally, we want to have an emergency fund that's equal to 3 to 6 months of our expenses. And so in this case, like if we took the variable and the fixed expenses for Linda, that's going to be about $5,600 roughly. So she's going to take a little bit of time to build up an emergency fund that large. She's got some retirement savings. She's saving some money towards the kids' education. She's trying to put a little extra to her loan and her credit card payment so that they get paid off faster. And the faster they get paid off, think about it, once those are paid off, then she'll have a little bit more discretionary income. And then we summarize everything. We see total income of $7,450. We have total fixed expenses of $47.45. We have variable or discretionary expenses of $1,905, and we have savings and debt payments of $700. That comes to total outflows of $7,350. So we compare that to the $7,450. And in this budget, Linda's given herself a little bit of a cushion in case something she's a little bit off, or she can use that towards her savings or debt repayment if she wants, or she can build up her emergency fund a little bit more quickly, but she gives herself a small cushion each month. So that's an example of some of the items that can go into budget and what it might look like. But now let's take a little bit different look and see what happens. Let's say that Linda didn't have the side hustle. Well, now when we look, we get down to the bottom line and we see her net cash flow every month is negative. You don't have to panic because your cash flow is negative. It just means you have to think about what changes can you make, because we don't want to get into that situation, because it means that we're going to build up debt and make things harder on ourselves. So Where can we make cuts? Well, the first place I look is going to be the variable or discretionary expenses, because those are numbers that we have more control over. So maybe we say that when we have a shortfall, we're going to cut our dining out expense every month to $100 from $150. And we'll say, while we're short, we're going to cut our clothing budget as well from $100 to $50. We still want to take our vacation, so we're not going to touch that. But we're going to say, since we're going to keep our vacation intact, we're going to take a little bit more out of our entertainment budget. And that's $50. And we're going to cut our self-care budget. Unfortunately, I know that's a hard one to cut. We still want to take care of ourselves, so we're certainly not going to make it go down to zero. But what if we made that 175? Let's see where we are now. If we do that, we're still a little bit short. So now we're going to look down at our savings and debt payments category. And I'm going to assume that your retirement savings have been set so that you're putting in enough to get the match from your company. And if you're putting in enough to get the match from your company, you never want to give that up, because I think of it this way. The standard match that you can get is usually 50% on the dollar up to 6%. So if you put away 6% of your salary, you get a 50% match. Well, that's a 50% return on your investment. You can't get that guaranteed anywhere, number one. Number two, when the company decided how much they were paying you, they assumed you're going to take it. So you're really giving away pay. So we're not going to do that. But what we can do is we say, I know I hate to do it, but we're going to pay a little bit less towards our credit card debt every month. If we just did that, see, now at least we're even. And if we'd like to have a little bit of surplus, we'd go back and do something similar to figure out where else we might be able to cut. That's the thing. We never want to get negative, but if we do, don't panic, because we have to just go back and take a hard look and see where can we make some cuts so that we can get back to at least even. A lot of cases, you probably haven't done this before. This is something that's new to you, and that only adds to the stress. There's a couple things to keep in mind during this emotional time. One is, it can really help to have somebody there to help you that's had experience going through this process. They can make it a little bit easier, that can answer your questions, that can alleviate your concerns and give you guidance. It's emotional for you, it's emotional for your kids. It's a difficult time. And the last thing we want you to do is feel overwhelmed by it. If you do, remember, first of all, you're not alone, because other people in your situation have probably felt the exact same way. And second of all, if you have somebody there that's working with you, they can really help you to figure out a way to do this and make you understand. Like, that's so important that you understand. And that person that works with you can really help with that. Think about it. When you are sick, you go to a doctor, right? Because you don't have that knowledge. When it comes to budgeting, if there's parts that you don't understand or you don't have the knowledge, then it's great to have somebody that can help you with it. By making these adjustments, we can get back to even. I don't want you to look at all this and feel overwhelmed or feel emotional or feel like it's a struggle. You may have never done this before. This is something new to you. It's an important step to take, because you want to make sure that you've done what you can to help prepare you and your family for the future that lies ahead, so that you don't put yourself in a bad position. I know you may have never done it, and that's why Apprise is here to help. We can help you figure out what the numbers are. We can help you put them into a budget. We can help you, if the numbers don't work, we can help you and talk to you about what type of adjustments to make. It's important to have help. We don't all have the knowledge to do this ourselves. If you're sick, you go to the doctor. You don't try and treat yourself. If you're trying to deal with your finances and you're not sure what to do, you shouldn't do it alone either. We're here to provide help for you and support for you, both emotionally as well as with the process, because we understand. We know what it's like. We also know you can do this. If you want to get started, you need to go and collect the information that we talked about as we went through the sample budget. Understand what your income is and what your expenses are, and gather that information. We have some resources down below that you can download to help you with collecting that information and putting it into a usable format. If you like, you're also welcome to schedule a call with me. There's a link down below that will take you to my calendar so you can do that. But remember, in the end, we got this. We know you can do it. And if you need some help, Apprise is here for you.